Pastor Kurt. I'm back again for part 2 of a new series that we just started last week called Making Disciples. We're talking about the whole concept of us making disciples, fulfilling what Jesus told us to do, which is to go out into the world making disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it's all a process that we go through. And so last week I talked about the fact that a big part of making disciples is to be able to tell our story. That's how we give credibility to our following of Jesus to others, so that they may look to us, imitate us, follow us, to eventually get them to follow Jesus, which is the ultimate goal. And of course, to become disciples. So I thought I'd start today with something a little different. And that is, I thought I'd tell you my story this week, and just kind of give you a feeling for what it is to have a story ready for when somebody asks, why are you following Jesus? So here goes. This is my story, and you may ask me, hey, why are you following Jesus? Well, I'm glad you asked. When I was a teenager in the Navy, I got to thinking a little bit about God and religion, because I was observing a group that was aboard the ship I was serving on, who were Christians and following, and were behaving very different than the rest of the crew. Now, I grew up in a Christian community, but my parents were not believers, and so I was exposed to God and the concept of Jesus, and that Jesus was God's son, and the historical figure of Jesus, but never who he was. I had no idea. Well, come that one of my duties on the ship on a volunteer basis was I was also the projectionist for 2 days a week. Every night there would be a movie on the ship that the sailors could go to, and I happened to be the projectionist one evening, and we were showing the movie The Omen. And now, if you're not familiar, it's quite an old movie now. If you're not familiar with it, it's a story about the Antichrist coming to earth in a little child, and that child creating havoc all over the world. Of course, it was a scary movie. It was a horror movie. So I didn't really pay that much attention. I was more involved in the technical, but of course I would watch the movie. And the concept of the Antichrist started to work around in my brain. And I knew this group on the ship, this group of Christians that I'd been observing. And so I thought I would go to them and ask them, and several of them happened to be up that night watching the movie. And so I happened to ask them about what's this Antichrist all about? And so, of course, they used that opportunity to tell me about Jesus. And one of them in particular asked me the question. He goes, why are you asking? Do you believe this Antichrist stuff? And I said, well, yeah, I guess so. And because I was fascinated with the movie, and he had a very simple answer. He said, well, if you're going to believe in the Antichrist, you might as well believe in the Christ. And he told me about Jesus, and that who Jesus was, and that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, and the whole story. And we kind of left it at that. Well, that began the process of me becoming a seeker, seeking out who Jesus was. And one day, late at night, on a very hot night, in the Indian Ocean, I remember, we were just on our way somewhere. It was very quiet. There were no operations. The ship was quiet, but it was hot. And I was by myself in a corner of the flight deck of the ship, just lying looking up at the stars. And you have to imagine that the sky out in the middle of the ocean is just, you have no idea how many stars there are. If you ever seen the sky away from the city without lights, it's fantastic. Anyway, I was lying on the deck. I was looking up at this star, and I began to think about God and Jesus and this, what I was told, and I just, it was very simple, nothing complicated. I looked up. I said, God, if you're real, and if Jesus is real, and everything, just show me by showing me some falling stars. And believe it or not, in that very moment, there wasn't just one or two falling stars, which you see all the time then, but there was just a shower of falling stars. I mean, it was just like, as soon as I asked the question, it was just like turning on a faucet and a shower of, it was absolutely incredible. I knew then and there that God was using his grace and mercy to answer my question, and right there, right on that spot, with nobody else around, just me and God, I gave my heart to Jesus, and I've been following him ever since. That, in a nutshell, is my story. And if somebody asks me, how come you followed Jesus? I tell them that story. If I have less time, I know how to shorten it. If I have more time, I know how to stretch it out and give more details. So, but that, I have that as a fallback, and I know that. And what I want you to get out of today, out of this devotional today, I want you to get out of, do you have your story ready to go? Do you know it? Can you tell it at an instant if somebody asks you the question? Jesus sure knew his story and knew how to answer to every individual. Do you know your story? Because it's important if you're ever going to make disciples. More next week. See you soon.